Good Wednesday morning. Tomorrow night, we're going to see the Giants and 49ers, and it seems like there's only two opinions on that game. One, that the Giants are going to get blown out, and then there's a couple Giants fans out there that say that they're going to win. But no one's saying that the Giants are going to play a good game and maybe lose. Either they're going to get their asses kicked or they're going to win. So I'm very excited for that game coming up tomorrow night. And this Patriot game, man, it is fascinating with the Jets. It's so fascinating, I'm thinking about going to this game. I'm thinking about going because obviously the Giants play on Thursday night. It's a 1 o'clock spot for the Jets.
Yes,
they don't
perfect.
have a lot of those.
Right.
And I just want to be there for this moment, whether the Jets season is going to go right to the fork in the road, which means that they're going to still be in it after this week at 2-1, or left where everything changes if they lose to the Patriots again. I almost want to be there with my own two eyes.
I was going to say, when you go left, everything gets ruined.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So that's why you want to stay on the right side.
Good morning, Boomer. How are you?
Good morning, G. So the prep starts for the Patriots this week, and, man, it's Zach's team, and it's just going to go that way, and I don't know whether or not it will change at any point soon. I hope for his sake that he figures it out and doesn't take any vicious hits. He has a tendency to expose himself to injury. Mm-hmm. So hopefully that is not going to be the case, and that he somehow just settle down and not make the key mistake and not force the issue and let their defense and running game. You know, look, when you hear a guy like Breece Hall complain about not getting the ball and putting 4 football emojis out after last week's game, you know what's going to happen the next week. They're going to hand them the ball 30 times.
Squeaky wheel spot.
Right, exactly. It is a squeaky wheel spot. So they'll run the ball, and they'll make a real effort to run the ball, I believe, this week against the Patriots. The problem is that, the Patriots are a big team, big defensive line, usually a solid run defense. And really what it's going to come down to, they'll move the ball. It will come down to how they respond in the red zone. And that's where the Patriots are just amazing in the red zone. They usually and normally hold other teams to field goal attempts or get turnovers. And that will be one of the key things for, I think, Nathaniel Hackett to come up with a solid red zone plan when they do get down there and come away with a touchdown and not have to settle for a field goal.
Yeah, and remember the Patriot game that was so bad last year and then there was a one where Zach was asked after the game, do you feel like they'll let the defense down? And he said no, and everything just unraveled from there. At halftime of that game, a lot of people were screaming for him to get benched. It was like, it's enough now. You got to do something else. You got to put somebody else in there. This team is competing defensively against the Patriots. All you need to do is get someone who can move the ball up and down the field. So I ask you, if the same first half happens against the Patriots like it did a year ago, is there a chance that they bench him and put in Tim Boyle?
I don't see it. I really don't.
I mean, even if it's as bad as we've seen?
I know that he's the guy that's there. Tim Boyle's the guy that is there right now, so he's the most popular guy on the roster and in the minds of the team, but the fans. But that's not – I don't even think that's an option. The only way Tim Boyle sees the field if he gets hurt. I mean, look, he is a second overall draft pick. It's his third year, second different offensive coordinator. He was not supposed to play this year. It was supposed to be Aaron Rodgers was leading this team to the playoffs. So this is his opportunity now, and they're going to give him every opportunity to be successful. Now, whether or not he's going to be, that's up to him, man. That is up to him. They have a good team, and there are going to be guys that are going to be wide open, and he's got to hit him in stride like he hit Garrett Wilson. There are times where he can do things, but it's his team. Right now, it's his team. If I personally think they're going to give him the next couple games, and then maybe they'll pull the plug or they'll pull the trigger on bringing somebody else in here. I still think they do need somebody else in here. You got to have a third quarterback, at least on your practice squad. So I worry about his injury propensity, and I also worry about his anxiety in the game when the game is going.
Yeah, I just think if we're going to call this a must-win game and how important it is for the franchise, I mean, if he is struggling at the level that he did last year against the Patriots, I mean, I'm talking about that bad, where everybody's saying bench him, bench him, bench him, and nobody is really arguing with that. And why not try something different? Tim Boyle's played in NFL games. It's not like he hasn't played in NFL games. He did play in a couple of games with the Detroit Lions. He's been there. So it's not as if you're throwing in a guy like the Cincinnati Bengals may have to start, who's never completed a pass in an NFL game because Joe Burrow re-injured his calf. So if we're going to call it a must-win game and he is that bad and the the Jets are doing everything else but converting first downs through the air. It's just something you have to consider. I guess because the thing that I can't take anymore is the development of this guy over everything else. Because right now, the only thing that matters is winning, and it doesn't matter who it is that's doing it.
Well, it's the development of this guy right now because of circumstances that were out of their control with Aaron Rodgers getting hurt. They didn't want to be in this situation.
What was in their control, though, was not having him be the backup.
Yeah, I understand that. We can go back to that discussion, too, but I'm not going to – we've already beaten that one to death. But they just believe in him. And
no, they don't. Not anymore.
Well, I think Joe Douglas does. I really do. And I know it sounds crazy. And it's not my opinion. It's what I'm sensing from the Jets.
Yeah.
And there are things that he does, like that throw to Garrett Wilson. He fit it right in there, hit him right in stride, just like a couple throws that he had made in the previous game against Buffalo. He hit Alan Lazard right between the 1 and the 0, and the ball almost went through him. So there is an arm strength there that you don't see everywhere. When he is accurate and he sets his feet. The ball comes out. I mean, they see that every day in practice. Why? Because there's no anxiety. There's no real pass rush. And they see some special things that he can do with his arm. Problem is when he breaks the pocket and he has to start making decisions down the field is where he gets himself in for whatever reason, he gets tied up in knots and decides to throw the ball into somewhere where it should not be thrown. And that's a young kid that has to learn. Like even Josh Allen goes through that. And has gone through that. Justin Fields is going through that. I mean, and sometimes it's hard to break that. They're waiting for that to be broken. There's no question, but they're waiting for him to have the game that he was having against New England the first game last year, until the second half where he had those bad interceptions. That first half was a good first half.
Yeah, he's never looked comfortable because you have two versions of Zach Wilson. You got the crazy one who wants to run around and be Aaron Rodgers from 10 years ago. A combination of Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre where he's slinging the ball down the field and doing all this crazy stuff that he shouldn't be doing in the NFL. Or you have the very, very conservative, and I don't want to make a mistake, Zach Wilson that ends up throwing the ball into the ground because he's in his head and he doesn't want to make a mistake. So they've never really been able to get those two things together, which is stop doing all the crazy stuff because you're not Brett Favre or Aaron Rodgers, and relax a little bit and still be yourself without going overboard. I've never seen him comfortable. He's either thinking too much or he's not thinking enough.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. I understand that. I played the position, so I know exactly what you're talking about. You want a balance in there somewhere. There are guys that, I always say, like, the greatest quarterbacks in the history of the NFL. If you want to put Patrick Mahomes on the list on the top 5, you have to, I would think. Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Dan Marino, Johnny Unitas, you want to put them on the list. What do they all have in common? They all stayed in the pocket. They all stayed in the pocket. They all had quick releases. They all had good accuracy. And they all knew how to read defenses and process what was happening. And some, have that ability to do it quickly, and others, it takes a while before the light goes on. I think like a Jordan Love, for instance. He sat for 3 years. He was a first-round draft pick. He sat for 3 years. And he's had 2 solid games as the quarterback of the Green Bay Packers. They haven't been, he hasn't turned the ball over. He's got 6 touchdown passes. He's probably competing about, 58, 57% of his passes. He's throwing the ball down the field, and he looks really competent and relaxed. But he sat for 3 years. People just don't have any patience whatsoever. And guys like Zach Wilson and Justin Fields should have sat for a couple years.
Yeah, I mean, I think a guy like Anthony Richardson should have sat as well, and he ends up getting hurt early on, and it's just stuff like that is frustrating. And the Jets threw the guy in, and everybody does this, and Jim Irsay is someone who was nuts, and he had to get this guy out on the field because he was afraid that the franchise and the fans were going to be too pissed off and don't want to go through a rebuild without some sort of exciting player at the quarterback position. Ends up ruining these guys. Now, I do think there's some of them, if you're going to be great, you're going to be great. If Patrick Mahomes started when he was a rookie, he would have been great. Joe Burrow did start as a rookie, ended up getting hurt, but he was very, very good prior to that. But there's some guys that need that time.
If you think back to when Joe Burrow got hurt, the Bengals were not playing well. They were playing down in Washington. Jonah Williams, their starting left tackle, just got beat, and there goes Joe Burrow's knee. PCL, MCL, meniscus, the whole thing, obliterated. And you're thinking to yourself, is this kid ever going to be able to come back from that? And not only did he come back from it, they knew that they had something special. Just they could tell by the attitude on the practice field, in the locker room, the way he carries himself. I think that's the same thing with Justin Herbert. It was the same thing with Josh Allen. Josh Allen went through some growing pains where he was loose with the football, but he was so big and so strong, kind of like Anthony Richardson is, that when they do use him in a running situation or he does take off, that he's such a great athlete that, he'll overcome whatever mistakes he's made. And in watching Shane Steichen and their offense in Indianapolis, they're using Anthony Richardson's talent as a runner in the body of the game plan. Like, they're calling plays for him to run. Like, I would never do that with Zach Wilson. He's going to get cut in half. Because he's not Jalen Hurts.
No.
He's about the same size, and he's a good athlete. He's not a bad athlete, but he's, for whatever reason, he's not who Jalen Hurts is.
All right, so after this game, and this is why this is another must-win situation for them. After this game, of course, they've got the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. And then they go out to Denver, the much ballyhooed game with Sean Payton and Nathaniel Hackett, and the Jets said can't wait for that game prior to Aaron Rodgers getting hurt. And now they're rolling in there potentially with Zach Wilson if they don't make some sort of change during that week. And then they have the Eagles. So after the Patriots, 2 out of the next 3 teams that they play were in the Super Bowl last year. And then you got the bye week. Will Zach Wilson be the quarterback of the New York Jets out of the bye week?
The hope is from the Jets.
I know what the hope is from the Jets. I'm asking you.
Yes.
I'm asking, we prognosticate all the time. I'm asking you. I am going to say no, he is not the quarterback coming out of the bye week to face the Giants in week 8. Do you believe he will play well enough, or the Jets will be stubborn enough to still have him be starting that week 8 when they play the Giants?
I think they're going to give the next 2 weeks, and then they'll decide. I think they're going to give him 2 more weeks. That's what I think.
Why is it so hard for you to answer this question?
Because I want the kid to do well. I really do.
Okay, but I've said this a million times
over. You would think
over.
that I don't, but I do. And
no, but wait, I do too.
Part of me feels really bad because he has just completely been destroyed from a fan's perspective. And I've gone through this. I know what this feels like. It's so demeaning and so like just you get so pissed off. And I want him to play pissed off. I want him to want to show people that he belongs here. I don't know if he has that personality gene in his body.
I mean, I can root for him, which I will be doing on Sunday. Like I said, I was thinking about even going to the game.
Yeah.
But I will be rooting for him and also thinking and expecting that he's not going to play well.
You know how Aaron Rodgers went on McAfee last week and he was telling everybody and implying that maybe he'd come back and just give me a reason, all you naysayers, that. I mean, like, he's pissed off. Mm-hmm. And he wants to use this as a jumping off point to come back next year and prove everybody wrong. And, that's the way you should think. That's the way, if you are a true dyed-in-the-wool leader and you want to come back and you don't want to leave on a sour note, you come back and you pick it up and you somehow figure it out. I'm not totally positive and confident in my statement that he will be the quarterback in the 8th week.
Okay, well, all right. So you're saying that you think he will, but you're saying that you're not confident in saying that he will. I'm not
confident just simply because of the gauntlet of teams they're going to go through.
All right, so you said that you think that he's going to get the next 2 weeks. So you do think that if it's really bad against the Patriots and the Chiefs, that something could happen.
Something has to happen. Something will have to happen. If they want to save their season, and I don't even know if that's even possible to save their season at that point.
See, I think that it is, though. I mean, they could still win this game with him playing horrible. The Patriots are a team that they can beat with him playing bad. Now, they can't beat the Chiefs with him playing bad. I also think they could probably beat the Broncos with him playing bad. I mean, they did go to Green Bay and win last year.
So if they go 3-1, then there's your answer. And if he's playing bad, your answer is he's staying on the field. If they're winning with him, they're staying with him on the field. This is like, they did not want this. This is like the worst case scenario for what has happened here. But as I told you way back when in March, the idea was that there was going to be two things happening at the same time. One, Aaron was going to be leading. The other one was going to be Zach was going to be following, watching, learning, and hopefully figuring it out. So when it was time for Aaron to leave, retire, then he would be able to seamlessly take over and be a little bit older, a little bit more mature. All of that has been thrown out the window and everything has been accelerated. And you have to hope that somehow, some way, in the short period of time that Aaron was here, that he had a positive effect on Zach.
Yeah.
I think there is. I haven't seen in these last two games. I haven't seen balls thrown into the ground.
No, you haven't seen that. So that's
positive.
one thing. That's a positive.
But these interceptions in the fourth quarter, and even, maybe they told him, look, we got to take shots down the field. We got to go after it, whatever. And maybe Hackett and Saleh were trying to get him into the game and have some positive big plays down the field and kind of loosen up the offense a little bit. I mean, if I were on the sideline, and I'll never forget this, remember Glenn Foley? Glenn Foley was on the sideline with me, and I had gotten taken out of the game late. We were not winning. They wanted to get Glenn some snaps. And there's probably about 7-8 minutes left in the game, if I can remember. And I remember saying to Glenn, he was a young kid, obviously all rambunctious and wanted to get out there and go make some plays. I said, Glenn, protect yourself. Don't leave yourself out for these guys to come and take you out. And he told me he had it. And then he went out there and obliterated his shoulder. Why? Because he was holding on to the ball and he was trying to make a play down the field. And it's a young kid just thinking and not realizing the speed of the game. Now, Zach is 3 years into this, so he understands what's going on. Now he's just got to somehow get this decision-making like not in his brain when he leaves the pocket. Somehow they got to untie that and let him play freely, and he's got to be able to make the right decision so the coaches can trust him.
All right, Boomer and Gio on the Fan and CBS Sports Network. We've got Peter Schwartz with us today. Jerry out sick, so we'll get a Peter update coming up next.